So this weekend was the first real look that we got into Star Wars Resistance. We got a first look trailer, and other than some artwork and the initial poster release, we hadn't really seen too much from it. And unfortunately, but predictably, with the release of the trailer came a fair amount of backlash. And I wanted to make a video to talk about why that backlash is stupid, and why the hate for Star Wars Resistance doesn't make sense. I've seen a lot of different videos, I've seen a lot of different comments, spread over a wide kind of variety of opinions, and, I have yet really to see a valid complaint, other than maybe people not enjoying the animation style, which each to their own with regards to animation. Some people prefer the really anime kind of style, some people prefer, the Clone Wars style, and, there's people in between. I personally didn't mind the look of the animation too much. It kind of gave me a sense of Ruby meets Avatar kind of design. But again, that might not be for everyone. So each to their own on that. And, I want to stress that not liking a show is not bad. Not liking something isn't bad. I did not like The Last Jedi, and I was very vocal about that. But I did so in a way that was respectful, and I raised my points, and those points, for me at least, were valid. And I gave the film a chance before I actually wrote it off. I didn't sit there during the trailers and go, this is terrible, I'm never going to watch this. And, the Star Wars fandom, it is the biggest asset that Star Wars has, but it's also its greatest weakness because of the minority. And this minority that has unfortunately driven the likes of Kelly Marie Tran and Daisy Ridley off of social media at certain points, unfortunately, are having a big influence at the moment. So I went and checked out the comments to the trailer, and there is about a 5-to-1 dislike to like ratio. And all of the comments tend to mirror the same point about how they do not like the fact that it seems to be very childish, that they think it's going to be a kid's show. And so for me, the first thing I would point out is that a lot of people are writing off this show before they've even seen an episode, which is a dangerous thing to do. I think that it works both ways. Trailers are there just to give us an idea of what's coming up. It's not there to tell us the entire story. It's not there to give us the overall plot. It's not there to give us the entire depth of character background. It's there to give us a quick snippet of what's coming up and to try and generate hype, which doesn't always work. Sometimes it does work, and sometimes it works when the actual end product isn't any good. Certainly, I found that the trailers to The Last Jedi built me up, hyped me up, and looked really good, and then I ended up not enjoying the final product. So I think trailers work both ways. You can get people who look at a trailer and go, that was awesome, this show's going to be great, or this movie's going to be great, and it turns out to not be great. And then you get people who go, this is terrible, it looks awful, and then it turns out to be actually quite good. And this is the exact problem with basing your opinion off of a trailer, which I've learned very much not to do now. I've been scorned enough times by trailers to know that you cannot take that as your main point of influence. And I get a feeling a lot of people are hating on Star Wars Resistance because of resentment. They resent what Disney are doing, they resent what Disney have done, and there is probably a small bit of justification for not liking what Disney have done. It's not for everyone. I certainly have my problems with some of the story plots that they've taken. And, back when Rebels was released, there was backlash to that simply because that came at the cost of the Clone Wars. But now with the Clone Wars coming back, there is no valid reason to hate Star Wars Resistance at this point. And to address some of the main points that people are raising about why they don't like Star Wars Resistance at this point, because I've seen videos where people have said, I'm not going to watch this show, I'm not even going to watch an episode, and they've told me that you shouldn't watch this because it's on Disney and Disney is for children. If you're a grown man, you shouldn't be watching that. And I find that opinion so stupid, so stupid, to tell me that, I should be watching Disney. I saw a video of one person who said that they'd seen Rebels, not particularly enjoyed it, but they weren't going to be watching this new show because it's going to be on Disney. Rebels was on Disney. You're kind of contradicting yourself there. And so, addressing the points that people are raising, let's take a look at a few things here. So, the biggest point that they are raising at the moment is that this show is for kids. And I don't like that, because shows for kids are not for me, and shows for kids cannot be good, and Star Wars is not for kids. Let's just blow that opinion right out of the water straight away. 1977, Star Wars A New Hope is released. One of the biggest demographics for that film was children. And the demand for merchandise was driven by children. That is a story that's quintessentially about good versus evil. And you would look at that and you would go, you could very easily classify that as a film that's aimed towards a young audience. It's not got too many mature themes. It's, a story about good versus evil, and, a young boy who goes off and, escapes his reality and, goes and becomes this great hero fighting against the big bad evil guys. There is no point at which you could say Star Wars has never really been aimed at a young audience, because it always has. I hate to burst that bubble, that people seem to be living in. And, people who are saying that kids shows aren't for adults. I mean, I guess you've never seen Gravity Falls, Steven Universe, Avatar: The Last Airbender, so many shows you've probably never seen and have never been successful. I'm assuming that Avatar was a failure. Avatar: The Last Airbender is a failure because no one's ever heard of that. No one's ever heard of that kids show, that just happens to be near and dear to many of us. Happens to be one of my favourite shows of all time. No adult has ever watched Adventure Time. No adult has ever watched, any show that was ever produced towards kids, because it's just not possible for a kids show to be any good for an adult to watch. It's just not possible. So, if you can sense the sarcasm there, it's heavy, because absolutely a kid's show can be good and can be entertaining for an adult to watch. Some of my favourite shows are based towards a young audience, Yes, I enjoy my shows, like Gotham, that are aimed towards a more mature audience and have some darker elements, but, you need variety in life. And to say that a show is not going to be good simply because it's aimed towards kids is nonsense. Rebels, yes, Rebels was aimed more towards a young audience when compared against the Clone Wars. In my opinion, that didn't make it any worse, The story had problems, sure, but it wasn't derived from the fact that, it was because it was aimed towards a younger audience. People are saying that this is a waste of talent for Dave Filoni. Well, Dave Filoni's not heavily involved in this. He's the head of animation. He has actively said that this is being run by someone else. And, I think that's good. The more people we get on board and the more people's ideas and inputs that we get in, we might find the next Dave Filoni. Because Dave Filoni's not going to be, there forever. It's all about finding the next generation. That's what Star Wars has always been about. It's about the next generation. Each trilogy has been different because it's been geared towards a different audience. It's telling a different story, and it's about finding those new actors and those new producers and those new directors. Look at the people who have come in this, in this sequel trilogy and the prequel trilogy, who were given the opportunity by Star Wars to really launch their career. And that's really what the story is about, and it's about families being able to look back and introduce Star Wars to their kids. It's a family thing. And so for people to go and say, Star Wars Resistance, that's going to be a kid's show, and it's all about, these really jokey characters. And, I'm not sitting here and saying it's going to be a great show. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here and saying that you should love it, because I don't know. What I'm saying is you shouldn't be judging the show right now. You shouldn't be judging a show based upon a 1-minute trailer, where you've not seen any of the story. You've only seen a snippet of the characters. You don't know that this is going to be just another slapstick kid show. You don't know. And at the end of the day, information came out a few days ago to say that this is going to be based 6 months before the events of The Force Awakens. So this show it's not going to be a long-running show. And I think the thing that doesn't make sense to me even more is the fact that I guess I could understand some of the resentment if you had a show like The Clone Wars being left in the dark and not coming back. But all of those people who were angry that The Clone Wars was cancelled because Rebels was coming along, you're getting the Clone Wars anyway. Next year, we're going to be getting Clone Wars. We're getting a live-action series that I presume is going to be, run for a more mature audience, by Jon Favreau. Why can't we just have a bit of diversity? Why have you got to hate because there is something that's maybe targeted for a younger audience? No one's going to force you to watch the show. That's the thing. Disney is not sitting there and saying, this is all you're getting. This is the only thing you're going to be getting now. They're sitting there and saying, this is one of the shows that we want to produce for one section of our audience. And everyone can watch it and everyone can hopefully enjoy it. I'm not saying that we will. I'm not saying that it's going to be good quality. But what I'm saying is that you shouldn't hate it just because of what it is right now. Give it a chance. To say that you're not going to watch an episode of it it says a lot about you as a person. And I think, people are so insecure with themselves, or they just hold resentment so much, that inability just to let go and just be like, hey, this is Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I'm going to give everything a chance. Really kind of just is disappointing. And, like I say, the fandom has really let itself down over the last few years. There are genuine reasons to be, unhappy with the direction that, Disney are taking Star Wars. And then there are childish, immature, and downright malicious reasons. The people who drive, the stars of the films off of social media are scumbags. People who hate people for a character. You're sending personal hate to an actor because of a character that they portray. They didn't write the character. They portrayed the character. They are not the character themselves. And I guess with any big franchise, you are going to get that element of an audience that is immature and is, it's the same with anything. There is always that element that brings the rest of us down. But this has become so much more vocal with, social media being so prominent and, the resurgence in Star Wars in general. It really is disappointing just to see. And now with this latest show, what would you prefer Disney do? Just not produce anything at all? Give it a chance is all I'm saying. I'm not saying you can't not like it when the time comes around. If you have a genuine reason to not like it when it comes out, if you don't enjoy the characters, if you don't enjoy the story, if you feel that it is too light-hearted or the humor isn't right, they're all valid points to have when you've actually had a chance to assess the show, but not when it's just been a 1-minute trailer. In the same way that I would say to someone who was super hyped from a trailer for a film, I would say, hey, take it with a pinch of salt because it may not be great, because I've been burned in the past by trailers. I would say to you, don't take this trailer to heart. Take it with a pinch of salt. It may be better than you think. Give it a chance, because all you're doing is making yourself look ridiculous by sitting there on the internet complaining about an animated show that you're saying you're not going to watch. If you really don't care about it that much and you say you're not going to watch it no matter what, why are you making videos? Why are you commenting? Why are you watching the trailers? It doesn't make sense. And, that's really why I wanted to take time to talk about that today, because I feel it is silly. And I feel it's getting to a point where, it's making Star Wars fans look bad. There is a little part of me that says I am ashamed of the Star Wars fandom. For the most part, they're fantastic people. They've done some really great things, really creative and interactive community. But there are those bad eggs out there that just bring everyone else down. And, this trailer, unfortunately, is bringing up that crop of people who just want to hate things for the sake of hating it. I think it's easier to hate something than it is to love it before you've even given it a chance. But, for anyone saying that it's a kid's show and it's not going to be good, go and watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. That is the quintessential, for me, the quintessential show that says you can make a show that's based for kids and it be an amazing journey, an amazing story, and have brilliant character developments, and it'll make you fall in love with the show by the end of it. And you don't need gritty, dark stories all the time, and you don't need constant character deaths. Star Wars is going to cater to that with the Clone Wars next year. If you want to go back to that dark, gritty, time where you're looking at the rise of the Empire and the fall of the Jedi, we're going to be getting that with the Clone Wars. We should be happy. We should be so excited for what's coming next year. Not moaning about what's coming up this year because it doesn't match what exactly we want. And, people always say in response to when I ever made a complaint about The Last Jedi, people would always respond with saying, well, you're just a fanboy and you just want everything to be exactly the way, you wanted it, and you wanted Luke to be this super powerful, superhuman person. And in a way I do, that would be awesome to see, but at the end of the day, I don't mind things being a little bit different than what I expect, as long as they make sense. That's my point of view. So, I don't have a problem with them changing things as long as it makes sense to change them. And I'll give everything a chance. I will give any show that has the name of Star Wars on it a chance. I may not like the concept. I may not like some of the initial things that I've seen, but I'm not going to write it off. I'm not going to hate it. I'm not going to go and cry in the comments or in videos or say that, grown adults shouldn't watch Disney, or that I'm not going to watch the first episode because I'm so butthurt that they didn't put out exactly what I wanted. I don't want lightsabers and Jedi in every single aspect of Star Wars life. I enjoy the different aspects of Star Wars. I want to go and see some of the other sides of the universe that they present. And, we're getting a little bit more detail into the sequel trilogy, and that's going to be, hopefully, really insightful, and it's going to help build up a bit more of the universe that we haven't seen yet. So, I'm reservedly excited. I'm not going to, again, I'm not going to say it's going to be brilliant. I'm not going to say it's terrible. I'm going to say I'm going to give it a chance, and just see where we go from here. And hopefully that's what the majority of people have also done. Unfortunately, it hasn't really looked that way, because I think the majority of people who want to be vocal are those who just want to hate things. So if you are one of those people who's writing it off because it's a kids show, I just ask that you reconsider. Go and watch some of those shows that are supposed to be for kids that are actually really good. Really, really good. And, maybe that'll change your opinion on it. Who knows?